You are living in the most dangerous time in American history.
We won't take a single back step.
Former professional basketball player is now the Republican Party's choice.
Can you imagine Royce White, the U.S. Senate?
White won the endorsement on May 18th with 67% of the vote.
There's nothing that guarantees we win, but I guarantee you if we lose, we will die. Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio, powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody. You might as well buy them from us. Help fund the movement. Help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I'm your host, Royce White, here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is episode 238. Am I right, Tanner?
Yeah, that's correct.
Episode 238. Today is January 15th, Wednesday, January 15th, year of our Lord, 2025. 5 days away from the inauguration. Historic moment in American history. Donald J. Trump, the 47th President of the United States of America, will be sworn in for what is sure to be a MAGA term, a MAGA era. Excited. I may actually drive out for the inauguration. I'm not one for the big events. That's just me. But this one is so historic. I'm tempted to leave my post here in the icy tundra of Minnesota and go witness that history, just for my own sake, because sometimes you got to do that for yourself. Obviously, you can hear from my voice, I'm struggling with a little bit of a virus or cold that's going around. Maybe you got new viruses popping up, or maybe the old ones, or maybe it's negative 15 wind chill here in Minnesota, and some of us Minnesotans still like to be a little flimsy on the layers, but nevertheless, we're doomed to that until we decide to move south like the rest of the snowbirds do for the winter months. Never been one to do that either. So. We're going to get into another reaction show here. We're happy to have you back. Hebrews hopefully will be airing on the Hebrews YouTube channel this weekend on Saturday. Myself and Professor Penn are working out the schedule to be able to film Hebrews, and they are going to be pre-filmed most of the time, obviously. You well know already we usually pre-film them, but a lot of times we pre-film them on the day of the episode. So that helps it be more current. But if you're watching and you're like, hey, that might happen 3 days ago or something, it's because we pre-filmed it. That's just part of the deal. Maybe we'll get to a point where we start doing them all live. We probably have the ability to do them live, but live is tricky. Things happen when you do stuff live. A lot of people are doing live and they're doing it successful, so it's not like it's impossible. In the first year and a half of having the studio open and doing all the content that we do, we find it much more comfortable to pre-film things. So we'll see how that all goes. But look for Hebrews' first official episode on the Hebrews YouTube channel. Again, the reason why we're doing these individual channels, and we want you all to go follow and subscribe and like and comment and share the content from each individual channel, is because we're pretty sure we're being shadow banned. I know I'm almost certain I'm being shadow banned. There's people who message us, email us all the time and say, your new shows aren't even popping up in my feed and I have your channel set for notifications. That's a good indication that we're being shadow banned. That's okay. I mean, you can only suppress the truth for so long. Running for United States Senate helped get my name out there. There's a lot of big podcasts I'm set to do this year that I'm sure is going to help as well. I'm supposed to do something with the Hodge twins. I was supposed to do it, but towards the end of the election, but I was obviously busy with the end of the campaign. But the Hodge twins have a great podcast. They got a great platform, and I like both of those guys. They're hilarious. Some people call me one of the honorary Hodge twins because I got the bald head and the beard going, little light-skinned guy. So that'll be fun. And a bunch of others as well. This is why we started the campaign 2 years ahead of time. Is we're going to exercise every avenue possible to make sure that more people know the name and they understand the message and the platform. So make sure that you go like and subscribe to all the channels individually. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, the like button. Make sure that you comment. Make sure that you share, repost. Feel free to strip content from the show and post it wherever you are. So we're going to get into this show today. And I got Tanner in the studio with me. Is your mic hooked up today?
Yeah, my mic's up today.
Tanner's mic is up today, so you get to hear the great young Tanner in the studio with me. And we're going to get rolling because I feel like shit, and that's just part of life. Let's roll. Classic.
A mother is screaming at a corrupt judge who wrongly sentenced her teenage son to prison in the notorious Kids for Cash scandal, one of the worst in judicial history.
You remember me?
After President Biden commuted the sentence of another judge who was convicted for his role in the scandal 15 years ago.
Do you remember me? Do you remember my son? An all-star wrestler? He's gone. He's shot himself in the heart.
Her son, who was sent to a for-profit prison in exchange for kickbacks, ended up killing himself.
My kid's not here. He's dead because of him.
Sandy Fonzo says she was stunned to learn about the commutation for disgraced Judge Michael Conahan, who was serving 17 years for taking $2.8 million in kickbacks, along with Judge Mark Ciavarella, payment for sending juveniles to prison. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro says he also believes the commutation was wrong.
I do feel strongly that President Biden got it absolutely wrong. Some children took their lives.
Well, that's even hard to watch. Joe Biden doing more Joe Biden things before his presidential term comes to a close. Illegitimate regimes have consequences, and it really shouldn't shock us that Joe Biden would do something like this. Although it should be surprising that things like this are even taking place, and when some of you Republicans out there in blind faith talk about the rule of law, as I've said before and I'll say again, the rule of law is only as righteous as the people who enforce the laws, as your lawmakers. And when your lawmakers are all corrupt scumbags, and when the judicial officers, such as judges, are fucking scumbags, then there is no such thing as the rule of law. It's a figment of our imagination. And we have become a lawless country in more ways than one, not just at the southern border with people crossing illegally, not just in department stores like Bloomingdale's or Nordstrom's or wherever else, Macy's, where people are going in and snatching designer bags and designer clothes out of the store with little to no consequences. Not just that. The legal system itself has become a lawless industry, mechanism, substrate of American culture. And judges taking kickbacks to throw juveniles in prison? Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, it's hard for me to even that barely even registers. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, and it's just kind of like you get to a point where you realize everybody's been kind of divided up and pushed into their own little corner of the arena. And in some communities, they have certain bits of information. In other communities, they have certain bits of information. And you end up, getting to a place, fortunate as I am, to go across the country or have an audience or have a following of people from many different walks of life that can share bits and pieces of information with you from many different communities. And so you get to synthesize all of it into one sort of, vantage point. But I'll tell you this. The black community was far out and ahead in understanding how corrupt the justice system actually is, right? I mean, it's always been a common sentiment in the black communities across America that the justice system is really unjust. Now, the white liberals and Marxists, they took that and they used that as the flag to delegitimize America as a whole and the idea of law and order as a whole. And that was wrong, and it was dishonest, it was deceitful, and it was certainly not, for the betterment of the people they claimed to want to help, which were, in a lot of cases, black people. Oh, we got to help these black people because the justice system is so bad for them. Two things can be true. One, the justice system is bad for people in general. It gets especially crooked for some black people, but also they don't really give a shit about those people. right? I mean, I think that's kind of hard for people to grasp is when you see an Ilhan Omar stand up after George Floyd is killed and say, the system is guilty. It's like, okay, well, stop taking money from lobbyists then that help keep the system corrupt. But she won't do that. And a lot of them won't do that. We're going to get to another one who's a lot less well known because of a lack of controversy, let's say, here in this program. Another puppet politician who can say what they want, but when push comes to shove, they are a part of the status quo, the system moving itself forward, ethics and morals aside. So, it's horrifying to hear. And you hear this mother screaming. And I mean, these screams of the American people that are lost on us, most of us, a lot of us, unless you've been through a situation like that, unless you know somebody. But for a lot of us, we don't even realize that some of these things are going on. I mean, a mother had a juvenile son sent to prison, and he ended up taking his own life. Why? Because, and I will say this in many ways, our prisons, and this is not just America, it's all around the world, although you get to some other places and prisons are even worse, but our prison system is broken. There's no doubt about that. Does that mean that we shouldn't sentence people to prison time and make them pay consequences for their actions or crimes? Of course not. But we better damn well start to think about how to address these institutions and even the prison system. Because if the prison system is broken, that too undermines justice. The same way a judge taking kickbacks, you scumbag motherfucker, just like a judge taking kickbacks undermines the American justice system, a broken prison system undermines the American justice system. Kangaroo witch hunt trials against presidents where E. Jean Carroll, again, as another example, could sue Donald Trump for $98 million with no physical or factual evidence about an allegation from 30 years ago. This undermines the American justice system. And that has consequences for everybody. So, it's horrifying to hear about this, cash kickbacks program pushing kids into prisons. I mean, it's just abhorrent in every sense. You all look more into it. I couldn't even look into it. I mean, I saw the video and I said, we just got to run it. I couldn't even do any more. I didn't even want to research it because I knew if I researched it, we wouldn't get to any other fucking videos today. I'd be going off for 2 hours straight, screaming in the fucking mic about scumbag fucking judges who get to sit up there with robes behind a fucking podium of power and make us all pledge our fucking, honesty on a Bible and then take fucking kickback. I mean, these people are the worst of the worst. They should get life fucking sentence. This guy got 17 years. I don't think it's enough. I think they should give you life. Life with the possibility of parole. Maybe. I'm not sold on that. Maybe life without the possibility. It's funny. I'm going to go a little bit further on this. I watched a special about the most dangerous gangsters in ADX. ADX Florence is the Supermax prison, and it's where they hold all the biggest gang leaders and cartel leaders and mob guys and domestic terrorists and people who did mass murders and shit like that. And some of these gang leaders were given life without the possibility of parole. And whether it was for a gang-related shooting, murder for hire, contract killing, conspiracy to commit murder, in the commission of a felony, which would obviously be drug trafficking or ongoing criminal enterprise. We know the story. But a lot of these guys were given life without the possibility of parole. And I just don't see how that's any different. You're a judge and you're taking kickbacks to influence and sway the outcomes of judicial proceedings and situations where people's lives are altered, whether they survive or not. Now, this kid lost his life and this kid's family lost their child. But even if you had to spend 15 years, I don't know, in a prison, you should have to do every bit of time. They should they should put together all the time that you were involved with dishing out, and you should have to serve that time. which would probably in many of these cases equal life without the possibility of parole. 15 years here, 20 years here, 10 years here, 2 years here. Before you know it, you're sitting at 100 years. You should have to do that shit. That's my opinion. The rule of law the rule of law does not exist unless your lawmakers and the people who enforce the laws have some righteousness and sacred honor. If they don't, there is no rule of law. Next clip. Speaking of prisons.
Welcome to Cognify, a facility designed to treat criminals like patients. Instead of spending years in an actual prison cell, prisoners could finish their sentence here in just a few minutes. Cognify could someday create and implant artificial memories directly into the prisoner's brain. These complex, vivid, and lifelike memories are created in real time using AI-generated content.
Stop the video. Stop the video. Well, this is a brilliant plan. I mean, here we go. This is, for all of I just said about how broken the prison system is, I'm sure this is going to fix things right up. Go ahead and keep playing it.
Depending on the seriousness of the subject's crime and their sentence, the memories could be tailored to the rehabilitation needs of each subject. The artificial memories implanted by Cognify would be seamlessly incorporated into the existing neural networks of the brain, preventing cognitive dissonance and ensuring the subject experiences the memories as if they were real. The Cognify concept offers a new approach to criminal rehabilitation, transforming how society deals with offenders by focusing on rehabilitation rather than punishment.
Yeah. I mean, and here's a prime example. Me and AJ talked about it. Me and Professor Penn have talked about it. The fourth and final heresy of the West will be artificial intelligence. The first heresy of the West was the scientific method, thinking that science and democracy and then computers and now artificial intelligence will solve all of our issues. That there is a shortcut, a sort of workaround to clarifying the human will. The human will must be clarified in order to solve issues in a way that's sustainable. And there is no shortcut. There is no workaround. Especially societal issues, issues that have to do with the interaction of people or how people progress, how people are developed, raised, and sort of built. There are no shortcuts to this shit. There really aren't. We're seeing that in schools since they introduced technology. The iPads and all these different things. Kids are dumber than ever. It's a fact. I mean, I'm talking about basic comprehension and sort of free-flowing, relative, imaginative qualities and the ability to critically think for themselves and, sound of independent intelligence. We are raising generation after generation that are getting visibly dumber. And we don't have to look at the dropout rates or the proficiency testing, the standardized testing. We don't have to look at any of that shit. You go pull any kid from a class and you can just ask them a set of questions and test that against what your average 5th or 6th grader knew 30, 40 years ago when we didn't have iPads in every classroom or cell phones in every kid's backpack, and you'll see a difference. You see a difference in the adults. Hell, I mean, there's a big difference in the adults' cognitive ability since we introduced technology. And now, in our civilization's darkest moment, let's say, where the splitting of the atom is closest to giving us the most catastrophic consequence we could possibly imagine. It's nuclear war, thermonuclear war. In our darkest moments, hey, the answer is we're going to put all of these prisoners in these weird hyperbaric, artificial intelligent, CGI virtual reality prisons. And we're gonna give them a suppository of artificial memories. I mean, what makes you people? You got to be arrogant as fuck to think that you even know what you're doing. What evidence is there that anybody in our society has any fucking clue how to shape people psychologically? Let alone the truth of the matter is, memory and consciousness and these types of these type of existential mechanisms, these God mechanisms, you could say, right? Things that don't have an explanation. It's like consciousness. We still don't understand it. Memories. I mean, dreams. We don't know what the fuck dreams. We don't get it. We don't got our arms wrapped firmly around dreams. We think we know. There are a lot of people who think they know. There are a lot of dream, analysts out there, right? There actually aren't a lot of dream analysts because it's not easy to analyze. It's much easier to analyze the fucking constellations. Many more horoscope experts than dream experts. But the point is, why? Because at least you could see the constellations. They're there every night, and you could start to, synthesize down some arbitrary bullshit meaning about zodiac signs. Hard when everybody's dreams are completely different. Every single individual's dreams are 100% different. They have a different quality. Some people dream in color. Some people hear sound. Some people don't. I mean, some people don't dream at all. Rarely dream. As I've gotten older, I dream less and less, probably because I'm stressed out. I never get into REM sleep. It's because I'm, I always got one eye open for the marauders and the gulag browncoats. But the point is, these mechanisms are not easy things to figure out. They're just not. So what kind of jerk off wants me to believe that they're going to do some grand, technological leap in being able to change the minds of criminals? Let's just start with the violent criminals. First of all, how are you going to demarcate which prisoners need this kind of thing? Like if I get brought up on charges of falsifying a sworn document, which is the goofiest, it's just like, oh, well, you filed the paper wrong under oath. You were under oath. You didn't know you were under oath. If I got to do 6 months, do I qualify? Or is it just for the most violent criminals? Okay, now, what about the ones who are wrongfully convicted? I'm not saying that we don't need to improve the prison system. Obviously, it's broken. But what I am saying is when our first default is technology as a solution, we got fucking problems. What makes you guys think that you can put who's going to be in charge of selecting which memories are good enough to change these people? Who's going to go through the testing period? The lifers, the death row guys? I could just see this whole concept getting way the fuck out of hand. And the fact that they just propose it as though it's just like the next thing. In 5 years, there'll be a technology where we could hook prisoners up to these pods and this virtual kind of simulation, and we'll be able to change the way that they think. Tanner, does this scare you?
Terrifies me.
That was horrifying, wasn't it?
Dude, I think about the possibility of somebody going in and they think that they fixed them, they implanted these memories, but then they come out worse.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's always a possibility.
Yeah, well, how soon before in certain states, under certain jurisdictions, you'll have some crackpot thinking, hey, the real underlying issue in this person's psychological, makeup is that they're really homosexual. But they just haven't embraced it. Or they're really transgender, and they just haven't embraced it. So now they're implanting transgender homosexual memories into your head, and then you come out gay. Or, I don't know, what if they, again, what if there was a religious caliphate, and now they're, saying, hey, the problem with you is, you were Muslim, and now we're going to force you to be Christian. These things are as un-American as they are inhumane. And as we go further and further into technology, we find ourselves treading waters that's just as un-American as it is inhumane, and that should give people great pause. Let's roll the next clip.
I go to white school boards in the suburbs, and the white people who know that I'm coming, because I may advertise it, they let me speak. We appreciate that. But the black people in my own community that look like me, y'all have a black governor, a black mayor, predominantly black school board, black officers, and the guy who has a differing viewpoint can't speak in your school board meeting? You are defrauding me of my freedom of speech.
No, you're not. You're talking, right?
No, I'm not able to be heard on record. And that's the problem. This is the issue with why we have failing schools In Baltimore. Because no one wants to change. It's protecting the status quo. Let's protect the CEO of Baltimore Public Schools who makes $479,000 a year. The kids can't read. The kids can't read, but she makes $500,000 a year. This is not right. No, take me out. It is necessary. I can't go. I've come too far to go too easily. If you want to arrest me, you can, brother. If you arrest my speech, arrest my hands. I'm not carrying anything but a microphone and a Bible in my book bag. That's all I got. And y'all silence the black preacher.
And if you're familiar with this guy, he was the one who famously went to the school board meeting and brought the material with him, the books with him that had sexually explicit content, and you know, basically called out the school board and said, what the fuck is this? and then as he was reading the material that was available in the school library, the city council, the school board told him that the language was inappropriate for the session, for the meeting. I mean, you can't make this shit up. And first of all, I want to say, I don't trust guys who wear bow ties. Okay. The guy he was talking to in the video had a bow tie on. I don't trust people who wear bow ties. If you're not going to a fucking black tie gala, a formal black tie event that requires a tuxedo or a very fine suit, which are great to do, great events. I love a good black tie event. Get all dressed up in a formal gown, great. If you're not at a fucking formal black tie event, don't wear a fucking bow tie. Okay, that's just my opinion, honestly. Sure, there's plenty of bow ties, and you can make it look cool. It's snappy, you know, it's dapper, I guess. I don't trust, here, I'll say this. I definitely don't trust guys who wear bow ties with suits that don't fit them properly. And that's just a fucking scam all around. On face value, this man is defrauding the physical presentation of menswear. And on those grounds alone, I don't trust you. If you're going to wear a bow tie, if you're going to be that fucking dapper, at least have a suit that fits you properly, okay? Second thing, and people are going to give me flack for this, the Republican Party, Tom Hauser of KSTP, oh, you defended Minister Louis Farrakhan. The exception to the bow tie rule is the Nation of Islam, because that's become a fixture of how they present themselves. And I will say this on behalf of the Nation of Islam, again, as I've said many times before, you could think what you want about them on a theological basis. And obviously, I'm a Catholic and a Christian, so I would disagree with them on a theological basis. You can say what you want about Minister Louis Farrakhan specifically and his rhetoric about other groups of people. What you cannot deny about the Nation of Islam is out of all of these pro-black groups, they are the one group who has been steadfast in their promotion of discipline for young black men. That young black men should dress like they have some sense. They should carry themselves like they have some sense. They should treat their bodies like they have some sense, like they have some sacred honor, based, what they put in their bodies and how they treat their bodies. They have been a group in the black communities all across the country that has tried to uphold that moral and ethics. So if you're in the Nation of Islam and you wear a bow tie, I give you a pass. Outside of that, I don't trust guys who wear bow ties. And the other thing that really pissed me off about this video, it's funny how they all go together. I talked about education in the last clip, and here we have the education. Tanner's must be an excellent producer. He must have looked at these already and put them in a soft order. Policing. When a man comes to speak the truth at the doorstep of power, who do they always call to try and stifle him and silence him? The police. And the reason, and this is the real scam of Baltimore, right? I mean, Baltimore, Freddie Gray, Baltimore, the whole system is guilty. No justice, no peace. The policing is racist in general. Police equates racism. Here comes a man to criticize the school board for what I'm sure is far left Marxist leaning, curriculums and practices. And who do they call right away? The police. Right away. I mean, you could just see it. And now, I guess because all the cops in the video were black, hey, I guess it's fine, right? I mean, no problemo. We got black cops here. But they're still using the force of the law to silence American citizens. And what I'm trying to impress upon people is all the Republicans out there who blindly follow the police or law enforcement, you are aiding and abetting the undermining of American citizenship when you do that. We want to support the police. My great-grandfather, Milton Pryor, was one of the first black police officers in our great city of St. Paul. He walked a beat. This was in the 1940s, okay? Back when America was a much different place. He was one of the first black police officers in the city of St. Paul. He walked a beat. I have police officers in my family. I have many police officers that I know, some that I grew up with, went to high school with. They went on to become police officers. Some that I grew up knowing, who have always been good friends and helped me out and looked out for me when I had trouble in life. We have no problems with the police in general. Anybody who says that the police are bad in general or racist in general, they're stupid. But we can't blindly follow any government institution or agency that has not earned it. And when it comes to policing or our politicians, they have to earn it every day with their actions. And to bring some cops, for the cops to even show up when a man is simply trying to speak the truth is a miscarriage of authority, a misuse of authority, and a miscarriage of justice. Don't care if they have a badge or not. Doesn't fucking matter. Am I a Roman citizen? Do you have the right to bind and beat a Roman citizen who has not yet faced trial, who has not yet seen his day in court? And we all would do well to remember that from the Bible. Next clip.
Are all white people racist?
No.
Well, before I answer that, I would say it depends on what that means to you.
Yeah, stop.
If being racist.
Stop. Fuck off these pot. And you know what? I know Mark Lamont Hill. If you want to reference, me and Mark Lamont Hill had a great debate that was hosted by Hotep Jesus. And, you know, I think Mark Lamont Hill is a very smart individual. I disagree with him on a lot of things. I also agree with him on a lot of things. He's found himself over here on this side with people like this, and I feel bad for him, honestly, as as a person I consider a friend. And some of you go, Mark Lamont Hill, he's your friend. Look, you can have differences of opinion on politics with friends. That's completely fine. Now, if you got down to the root of your core values and beliefs, I think that Mark Lamont Hill means well. I really do. I don't think that he's a malicious person. I think that he, and look, it's the same thing on the right. We got people on the right. We're going to get to some later on in the show. My point is, these posh, mealy-mouth motherfuckers, like this chick here who's going to go out and give us some expansive, elaborate, esoteric justification why you could say all white people are racist. My grandmother, okay? My grandmother being the same color skin as she is, but with a black grandfather, a black father, who was 100% black, by the way. My grandmother, who I'm going to bring on the podcast one day, you'll see, she's whiter than this lady, but her father was just as black as Mark Lamont Hill. But she would appear to be white. And these sort of, loose definitions of racism that they're going to put on white people would surely fall on my grandmother, unless you broke out her family tree or 23andMe, whatever it is. Unless you knew better, she would appear to be white. So my grandmother is racist, and this woman here, this mealy-mouthed scumbag professor, she probably got a PhD. I didn't even look her up because it's an archetype. I don't even need to know who she is specifically. I don't need to read the fucking book. There it is, Dr. Robin DiAngelo. There it is. PhD, another mealy-mouthed, overeducated, underintelligent motherfucker. And she's going to tell me about why all white people are racist. Go ahead, continue. Let's hear this.
This means conscious, intentional dislike and meanness, then no. Are all
Start
white
it over
people
for
have
me.
Are all white people racist?
Well, before I answer that, I would say it depends on what that means to you. If being racist means conscious, intentional dislike and meanness, then no. Are all white people, have we all internalized racist ideology? Yes. Do we move through the world with a racialized experience that benefits us within a system of inequality? Yes.
Chapter 2 of your book is called Why It's Okay to Generalize About White People. One of the things that white people will often say is, well, you can't say that about all white people. Robin, you can't say all white people have internalized anything. You can't say that all white people do this or all white people feel like that. And they would say even that the very claim that all white people do anything is itself racist.
And that's why it's chapter 2. It was clear to me after White Fragility that I had to take that on right away. So first of all, I'm a sociologist, and I'm quite comfortable generalizing about a group of people and describing patterns that are observable and well documented. And that is what I'm talking about, are patterns. There are exceptions to every pattern, but I want us to try to look at the rule rather than the exception.
Visit Everyday is Juneteenth on Instagram.
Oh, fuck me. Okay. The first thing that jumps out at me is they're giving these people PhDs. Right? If there's a crisis in our justice system, if there's a crisis in our government, there's also a crisis of credentialization. These people are over-credentialized and under-intelligent. This is what happens in an aristocratic, posh, academia, university-driven society. I mean, what does she even say? Help me understand how you could be talking about racism as an issue and then justify generalizing vast groups of people because you're an expert. You're a sociologist. So, I mean, okay, are we going to make generalizations about black people? Is she, as a white woman, going to feel comfortable making a generalization about black people based on her academic credentials? And couldn't that be seen as racist? The short answer is obviously. And she obviously has some sort of self-guilt about her own racist kind of thinking, about her own, because what it really is she's full of shit. She knows the social sciences are full of shit. The sociology departments are full of shit. They're half-baked, they're half-noodled, they're not al dente, they're half-cooked noodles. And she doesn't trust her own worldview. But she knows that if she doesn't make vast generalizations about people as a sociologist and author, then the time that she spent in school is worth nothing. So she has to go along with it anyway. And there are a lot of people that do this. They get so caught up in a career, they get so far down a path, they'll go along with it even if it's immoral and unjust. We see this in law enforcement. We see a similar situation in law enforcement where people go along with the norms because it just becomes a part of it, right? She literally describes racism in the video. I'm comfortable making generalizations about groups of people and patterns because I'm a sociologist. I'm an expert. It's just I want to judge white people. I mean, I have this distinct desire to judge white people as a group. And here she has a last name, D'Angelo, which would suggest Italian, right? At least on face value. So, I mean, and when you look at Italian, and then you got to ask the question, what do these people mean when they say white? I don't even, there's a fine line here. There's a real fine line here when we start talking about race, where shit gets strange, gets complex. Is it we say white and black is white? Well, we saw in this election, everybody who's black don't agree on what's black. That became a point of contention and controversy around Kamala Harris's candidacy, right? There's a lot of people who jumped up and said, hold on, she ain't black. not black in the conventional sense, or not black in what they think is the traditional sense, not a foundational black American or an American descendant of slaves. Okay, so that's one way that black people have sort of started to define their lineage and heritage and culture and identity, which I think there's some merit to. And when you use history to define your heritage and culture, there's merit to that. I mean, I get it. Now, white people and whiteness as a whole has been kind of, say, watered down and whitewashed, for lack of a better term. It's been whitewashed. I don't know what people mean anymore when they say white. I really don't. Now, I do get that historically speaking, when the immigrants came to America from these various places in Europe, that many white, let's say not white, I'm sorry. See, I just did it there myself. Many European immigrant groups started to mix because of similarity and appearance, which is normal. And you don't think that's the case. You think racism's disappeared. I tell people all the time, don't show me the Festival of Nations to tell me how race relations are doing in America. Take me to San Quentin on the Yard, right? Take me to Beaumont Prison. Take me to Shakopee right here in Minnesota. And let's go take a walk on the Yard, and you'll see that people still separate themselves into groups based on appearance. There is something human and natural about that, right? There's something human and natural saying, okay, I'm in a place. It's probably most safe for me to get close to people who look like me. Let's start there. So my visual cues are saying it's probably safer with the people who are more like me. And that could be any number of markers. It could be color of your skin. It could be height. It could be weight. It could be men or women. It could be a bunch of different things. Like if I'm in a room and there's some athletes or some ex-basketball players, I'm going to go over and strike up conversation with the ex-basketball players probably. Now I'm getting to a place where if there's some mixed martial artists or there's some people who are in politics, I'm kind of, widening that range as I get a little older. But there's something natural about that. Now, what the American way and the sort of advanced human philosophy and thought process on these things is that we should try and transcend our tribalism and our group, our natural sort of tribal group thinking. And we are trying to do that. And America's come a long way in 100 or so short years. The Constitution provided a framework, a legal framework for us to traverse through that Rubicon of racial injustice and separation and segregation and slavery and all these things. So some of it is natural. We're trying to transcend that. However, what do people mean when they say white? White was used as a sort of a broad categorization to give European immigrants an advantage. I'm just going to say that part is true. I mean, because they're not really white. It's like, what do you mean when you say white? If you go to Europe right now and you say that a Polish person is, somebody from Poland is white, they're like, no, nobody in Europe identifies based on their race. Unless you find some of these left-leaning, Marxist, liberal, posh, yuppie, omnisexual internet types. But nobody who's not engulfed in, and there are a lot of people engulfed in that ideology, but nobody who isn't engulfed in that ideology talks about European identity in terms of race. They talk about it in terms of nationality. All of them. I was in Europe. I went to visit Italy, and I was in Italy during a time where the Italians are off on vacation, and Italy was full of people vacationing from different parts of Europe. So you had people from Romania and Bulgaria and Eastern Europe, and you had people from Spain, and you had people from Portugal, and everybody's there in Italy to see the fucking sights. Italy's a beautiful place. Lake Como, Milan in the summer. It's great. Nobody talked about it. I'm white, black. It was I'm from Italy, or I'm from Southern Italy, I'm from Sicily, You know, it may be the city that they're from, you know, because they don't have states. Their countries are broken up into provinces and cities. So it's the city I'm from. It's the country I'm from. It's national. It's national. I'm from Bulgaria. I'm from Lithuania. I'm from Russia. You know, I'm from, yeah, you know, I'm from Sweden. And all of those same nationalities exist, let's say all of those same ethnicities. So now if you go from the history of your people coming from a country to another country, your new nationality becomes, I'm American. My ethnicity now is Swedish or Polish or Italian or, whatever, whatever, Spanish or whatever the case may be, German. That becomes your ethnicity. There is no white, just like there really is no black. And I'm going to be honest with you. The only reason there's a black as well is because a lot of Africans were grouped together in a slave trade where they came from was no longer so as important as where they were going. And so their individual ethnic roots to whatever tribe or nationality or province or city state there in Africa no longer matter. Because you all are black. Yeah, you're black. You're African. You're Negroes. You're slaves. I don't care where you came from. You came from Africa. You came from somewhere where there's darker colored people. So, I mean, and I'm just pointing out the history, not to say, oh, America's a racist country or anything like that. What I'm saying is these two identities have become so prominent in our culture, yet they are distilled down to the most simplest form from a clear history that we should be able to see past. There really are no white people or black people, right? I mean, honestly. Now, when Kamala Harris comes out and they try and put her up as a black politician, when obviously she does not fit much of the criteria of what we think of today as being black, based on short American history. Let's talk, did you come from slavery? Okay. She didn't fit that criteria, and she tried to promote herself in that way, which is why people called foul. But if we really get down to the bottom of it, this whole black and white thing is a scam. I mean, this is a division. This is a social engineering divisional tactic to keep people busy, focused on their differences more than the similarities of you getting fucked over by your government that really doesn't see black or white. All they see is money, green, power, which has no color. There ain't no black and white. My people came from, some of my, forefathers came from somewhere in Africa. They came through the slave trade. Some of them through Arkansas, some of them through Kentucky, some of them made their way up through Kansas. And I'm sure some other places in there somewhere. They came from Africa. I don't know where they came from specifically. I don't have time to 23andMe. I don't have the time. Why? I don't give a shit, honestly. We're building a future. I'm building my own legacy. I have my own family, and we build our own legacy. We know the history. We know where we came from. Some of my family members came from Mexico. Not everything's black and white. They say the three master races are the Negroid, the Caucasoid, and the Mongoloid. Well, the Mexicans, the Aztecs, the people of the Americas would fit the Mongoloid criteria, stemming all the way back to when the people from the Mongol, the Asiatic master race crossed over the Bering Strait and populated the Americas, so they say. And that history isn't even settled. It may very well be that there were people on the planet all the way back to the days of Pangea when the continents were smashed together, and that the same people who lived on the North American side of the ocean are the same people who lived on the Asia side of the Pacific Ocean. And maybe they were there the whole time. Maybe there wasn't a great migration. We don't even know that part yet. So that's what I'm saying. We get caught up in race. Do you agree, Tanner?
I agree.
We get so caught up in race based on a bunch of narratives that are not in any way airtight or solid. A lot of it is based on speculation. A lot of it is based on historical assumption. And a lot of it is based on, again, it being very profitable, very advantageous to keep people divided. My grandmother looks whiter than this lady, Dr. D'Angelo, does, and her father is 100% black. 100% black. So this idea that all white people are racist is fucking stupid. Let's cut the shit. We got bigger fish to fry, okay? Next video.
Not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan.
Was Bill Clinton America first? I think Bill Clinton might have been MAGA in there somewhere. No, Bill Clinton's a puppet globalist scumbag. And, you know, as MAGA as his immigration policy sounded there, the reason why it didn't become a feature of the Democrat Party and platform is because he didn't really believe in it. But it is funny to hear people talk like that who are now so staunchly opposed to building a wall, saying that there are illegal immigrants, and taking the necessary measures to stop the mass migration of illegal immigrants into our country. I mean, this is just 1995. I know it seems like a lifetime ago now. You could tell by the quality of the video. In 1995, I was 4 years old. And this goes to tell you how long these people been bullshitting. Okay, Bill Clinton was already up and full-fledged lying to the American people, and I was still running around, pissing the bed. Right? I don't know. I don't even remember if I was pissing the bed at 4 years old still, but conceptually, you got to ask mom about that. But conceptually, 4 years old, you're still wetting the bed every once in a while, right? I mean, Tanner, were you still wetting the bed at 4?
No, I wasn't.
Shit.
Sorry.
I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping. All right. Maybe I'm tripping. I know some kids that were still wetting the bed at 4. Okay. And
my 4-year-old daughter does, so don't feel bad.
Okay. All right. Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't. Don't really remember. Can't even remember when I was 4. This fucking guy was up there lying through his fucking teeth already, and I wasn't even up walking around on stable legs yet. That's how long these people been doing this shit. And it's not just him. I mean, listen to the policy. Listen to the policy approach. It is completely America first. And they say that Donald Trump and Steve Bannon and myself and everybody else who says we have to close the border are what? We're like racists. We're Neanderthals. We're isolationists. We're xenophobic. We're extremists, conspiracy theorists. But they love Bill Clinton. They love Bill Clinton so much that they ended up loving Hillary Clinton by osmosis. I mean, what the fuck did Hillary Clinton ever do for people to like her? Nothing. Hillary Clinton never did anything for people to like her. Fact, if you want to talk about elitists, if you want to talk about elite white privilege, Hillary Clinton robbed them. It doesn't get no more elite than Hillary Clinton robbed them. It doesn't get any more generation. I mean, come on. It's Hillary Clinton robbed them, right? I mean, her dad had juice. I mean, come, guys. And people actually want Hillary to run again. They wanted her to run again this time. I saw all these memes that were saying around the end of the election, Hillary Clinton was right. Right about what? What was she right about? I don't see one thing Hillary Clinton was right about. That Donald Trump was a force to reckon with, that he was going to win, that he was going to be a problem for the Democrats for a long time to come if they didn't find a way to stop him. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say she was right about that. But the overall spirit of the Clintons, the Clinton Foundation, and just their whole MO is corruption. And we got to ask ourselves, all Hillary Clinton did to be liked was stay married to Bill after he got a blowjob from Monica Lewinsky. That was That was the claim to her fame. Really. I mean, honestly, I grew up in the 90s. Every time Hillary Clinton's name came up, it was in in conjunction to her standing by Bill during that controversy, during that scandal. And I got to say this, I do respect her for doing that. You know, now, in retrospect, going back and looking at it ex post facto, it's very clear that Hillary Clinton had her own political ambitions. So it's completely plausible that her standing by Bill wasn't out of the sanctity of marriage, but more so out of her own calculation and sort of uh, agenda of political capital, right? I mean, who does she become if she walks away from Bill Clinton after a sex scandal? You were the woman who couldn't keep your husband satisfied, who went and opted for a younger woman, in a scandal, and now he's disgraced, and now you're kind of looked at too, like, Patsy, you're a fool. So her and Bill made a decision that was just as much of a business and political decision as it was a personal decision. But I do respect women who stand by their husbands through infidelity because, hey, there's a lot of temptation out here. There is, and we've created a culture that's hypersexual, and to be honest, from what we see of Hillary today in the public, she's probably a nightmare to be around. Sorry, I hate to say it that way. I've said it in podcasts before. It doesn't give you an excuse. It doesn't justify the behavior of Bill. But Hillary Clinton is a nightmare. She's a nightmare to listen to. She's a nightmare to watch. I would assume that she was a nightmare to be married to. And so I understand how Bill would have, wandering eyes. Now, did he have to get a blowjob in the Oval Office? I mean, come on, Bill. That was over the top, I would say. I get it. It's kind of a little kinky role play. It's like, hey, I'm the most powerful man in the world. Come on into the most famous office, powerful office in the world, and let's do a little bit of hanky panky. I get it. Okay, I get it. I could get myself there. I probably wouldn't do it, but I mean, I get where they're going with that, right?
Really puts the Mile High Club to shame.
I mean, you get it though. I mean,
Yeah,
you almost get it.
I get it.
I mean, and it's funny because we could sit here and in retrospect and judge Bill. I think Bill was a bad president for a number of other reasons. Him getting a blowjob in the Oval Office is least amongst them. Honestly, it really is. I mean, that you could say that that's a marker of his character that would indicate why he would sell out on these other things. But I like to separate the sexual and the political, because if not, I mean, we're playing a dangerous game, right? It's the same thing they want to do to Donald Trump, and I just don't like when people do that shit. To give me the policy. I want to know the policy. I want to know the substance and the merit of the policy. That's what I want to know from my politicians. I don't really much care who you sleep with. If your policy starts to reflect who you're sleeping with or how you're sleeping with them, then I'm gonna have an issue with it. But as long as it doesn't, you're an American citizen. You do what you want to do. That's my opinion on it. And I think we need to get our arms around that quick, because I guarantee the politics are going to continue to devolve into sexual politics. That ain't going to stop unless we put a stop to it. So I think Bill was a scumbag politician for a bunch of other reasons. But does everybody else in the country really care that he got a blowjob in the Oval Office? See, because like Scandal was one of the best shows, one of the most successful shows, TV series on television, right? Kerry Washington, she's the star lead in that TV series. And she's a fixer, right? She's a political fixer in Washington, D.C. And she's having a love affair, a secret romance and love affair with the President of the United States, whose character's name is Fitz. It's short for Fitzgerald, but I think his name was Grant Fitzgerald in the show, right? Or something like that. Anyway, she's having an affair with him the whole time. And the wife, Millie, And obviously, you could tell I watched the show. But it dawned on me that nobody in America had this huge outcry that it would be that this affair would be portrayed on American television. And it speaks to how we feel about infidelity, right? I mean, I think so. And, there weren't vast protests to, we're not going to watch this because, it's not right for an American. It's not even right to depict that an American president would be having a long-standing, romantic sexual affair with one of his employees or one of his confidants or, whoever, anybody. So just on a cultural basis, I don't think that we really have a problem with that Bill Clinton got a blowjob in the Oval Office. I don't think so. And that would actually reflect on how many people still support the Clintons. I mean, because again, you're supporting Hillary based on her connection to Bill. Before Bill or without Bill, there is no Hillary Clinton. She's insignificant. She parlayed it into a political career. That's all I got on that. Bill Clinton's a scumbag, so is Hillary.
The House released a 500-page report on COVID-19 pandemic. Key findings: COVID-19 likely originated from a lab-related incident in Wuhan, China. Crazy. You get banned from YouTube for saying that. Banned. Okay, over $200 billion in relief funds lost to fraud, with criminals exploiting weak oversight. Prolonged lockdowns and arbitrary mandates cause severe harm, economic devastation, mental health crises, and historic learning loss, while lacking robust scientific support. Policies ignored natural immunity, pushing mandates that eroded trust and harmed public perception of science. Absolutely. WHO and CDC compromised by political interference, offering inconsistent, unscientific guidance that fueled public distrust. And the key players included federal agencies, and Cuomo's administration actively obstructed oversight efforts and hid critical evidence.
Christ.
Select subcommittee on coronavirus pandemic basically said all the conspiracy theorists were correct. Every single one of them. No repercussions, no retractions, no apology from Rachel Maddow. None of it.
Yeah. Well, the argument's going to be that the subcommittee that put this out was probably a Republican House-led subcommittee, which, one way or another, I mean, we still have a problem with America First in the House and the Senate. So just because it's a Republican subcommittee doesn't mean that I trust it further than I could throw it. However, did we even need confirmation? I mean, I guess it's good to get a little vindication from your government to try and restore a little integrity, but did we really need confirmation? We watched this whole thing unfold. We saw Dr. Li in China. First of all, never forget that Dr. Li was the first doctor in Wuhan to discover or treat people on the front line of this outbreak, and he was censored and harassed. And I even think he was thrown in jail. I mean, he was called into the whatever was there, the Bureau of whatever, totalitarian, dystopian police state, agency or thing they got going on there in China. Anyway, the man who was the first one to send the first emails out about this new coronavirus and pneumonia that he had been treating was censored for it. And then he ended up getting it, and then he ended up dying at 37 years old. I think it was like 37, 38 years old. But, that's how this thing started. I mean, that tells you the track it was on from the very beginning. Only to get to America and have our leaders, leaders of our health organizations and things, do the exact same thing here, which tells you how close we are to China. I mean, they didn't, again, if you don't understand the difference between America and China, one thing, the Second Amendment, it's not even freedom of speech. Because freedom of speech is kind of like a universal law, right? I got the right to say whatever I want. I don't have a right to determine the consequences for what I say. Right? Now, legally, they're standing to say, hey, this person has a right to express themselves, and that is what makes America unique, and that is a significant tool and mechanism to maintain freedom. But when you're in China, just like we had my friend that was a part of the Tiananmen Square protest, you can say what you want in China. It's just no guarantee you don't get black bagged for it. You don't get taken away and thrown into a gulag or re-education camp, as they call it in China. So you can say whatever you want, but the Second Amendment is a concrete defender and protection of freedom. And they don't have it there in China. And if they didn't have it here in America, we would have seen our government and our leaders and our medical industrial complex, along with our media industrial complex, and with the help of our military industrial complex, censor Americans who said that a lot of this shit wasn't what they were telling us. This how close we were. This how close we were. Yeah, we almost let Kamala Harris and Cardi B run the country. And that would have been bad. But never forget the real herald to the death of America was COVID-19, and how close we got to letting fear and panic strip us of our natural-born, God-given, inalienable rights. Our American identity. Cautionary tale, because these viruses, as you can hear my voice now, I might be suffering from one myself, but these viruses are going to be a revolving door now to test, the strength of the American people.
I talked to a fireman once. This is one of the reasons it freaked me out. And he was telling me, he goes, dude, one day, he goes, it's just going to be the right wind and fire's going to start in the right place and it's going to burn through LA all the way to the ocean. And there's not a fucking thing we can do about it. I go, really? He goes, yeah, we just get lucky. He goes, we get lucky with the wind. He goes, but if the wind hits the wrong way, it's just going to burn straight through LA and there's not going to be a thing we can do about it. Because these fires are so big, dude. When they're talking about like thousands of acres that are burning simultaneously with like 40-mile-an-hour winds. And the wind's just blowing embers through the air, and those embers are landing on roofs, and those houses are going up, and they're landing on bushes, and those bushes are going up, and everything's dry. And once it happens in a way where it's so spread out that there's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do.
You just have to evacuate, right?
Nothing they can do.
Well, Joe Rogan strikes again. Joe Rogan was right on that one as well. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with everybody there in Los Angeles. I saw Gavin Newsom give some elaborate political stump-style speech about the rebuild of LA and California. And, they called it Los Angeles 2.0. And, that's scary in and of itself. But, there needs to be investigations into the competence of the California government and the Los Angeles city officials to make sure that everything was done to prevent this. And that's just prudent, right? Investigate. I remember I said investigate Maui, and I wrote it on the side of my head. It was playing in the Big Three. And I was on CBS that day. We had a live game on television. And I had investigate Maui on the side of my head. And all the Democrats and liberals flipped their shit. And conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy to call for investigation. Actually, it seems corrupt when people want to deny investigation. Why are you so dead set on not having an investigation? If there's nothing to hide, then an investigation will show that in most cases. Sometimes investigations don't get to the heart of the truth, too. Sometimes there's stuff hidden that an investigation won't find. But why are you afraid of an investigation? We should investigate these wildfires. And I'm not just talking about what happened, at the peak of the crisis, in the response, but I'm talking about what led up to it. Who's responsible? Who should have to bear the cost? Maybe Gavin Newsom can call his boy President Xi. They want to clean the fucking streets when President Xi, totalitarian communist dictator, doesn't believe in American values like the freedom of speech or the right to bear arms. Maybe he can call President Xi, and President Xi can send some of that Chinese money that they got from us back to help rebuild Los Angeles. Doesn't that sound like a plan, Tanner? That'll really show you where pretty boy Gavin Newsom is on American citizens and helping the Californians out in this time of crisis. Yeah. Joe Rogan was right again. Predicted it to a T. Let's go to the next video. Now, this video made its way in because I know this is a form of dance. I just don't like it. It came across my feed, and I thought to myself, I don't like it. I don't like men who hold their arms straight back, with an inverse bend. Play the video again. No man should be holding his arms so straight that his elbows bend in the opposite way. That's just me. It's bow ties and strange dances like this. I don't trust this guy. I don't trust this kid. This may be a very important cultural, men who tap dance and hold their arms straight and poke their chests out. I don't trust them. Okay. I'm just laying down some cultural, some cultural guidelines for the Please Call Me Crazy podcast. I can't speak for everybody else. Tanner, what do you think of that dance?
It's definitely odd. I think
Okay.
it takes a lot of talent to do that, but
Yes.
definitely odd.
Yeah, well, I mean, talent is an odd concept. We'll say that.
I definitely could not do what that kid's doing, but
Well, I would guess a lot of people could do a lot of things that they don't think they could do if they were trained to do it. The question is, why would you train to do that? I'm pretty sure I could do it if I spent 3 years learning how to do it. There's nothing wrong with men dancing. I don't want to, I come from a rich Mexican heritage where there's nothing like Latin dancing. If you know anything about, mamba or salsa or the merengue or, there's some great dances. Men can dance. This dance looks rather feminine. Does it look feminine to you?
it looks a little feminine. I don't think it helps that he's so bone skinny, though.
Well, it's just the way he's holding his arms. I don't. And again, maybe this might be a cultural dance. I mean, I've seen it before. You've seen it before.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure if I've ever seen men do it before. And I'm not sure if men are supposed to do it. Is that traditional? And I didn't look into it. Because I can call the balls and strikes on these things in my life, for me personally. I don't like it. If I'm in charge in America, we're not going to teach young men to dance like this. That's just it. We're not going to incentivize it. We're not going to affirm it. We're not going to say, hey, Johnny, it's great to dance like no, stop. I don't like it. Looks weird. It gives me a weird feeling, and I think it's a feminine dance. It's a very feminine looking dance, and I brought the video in, and I guess it's a great segue from China because in China and Russia, you just saw in Russia, what did they do in Russia? Did you see the news in Russia, Tanner?
I did not.
In Russia, they allegedly went to a gay nightclub and they arrested, I think they might have arrested or they may have, I don't know what they did. They get people who were dressed too gay. There were people at a club and they said they were dressed too gay and maybe they gave them a citation or something like that, which I don't agree with. Look, in America, I'm not saying it should be legal for the kid to do the dance.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a European dance. You can hear by the style of music. It's a European cultural dance. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to do the dance. I'm not saying that Gay people shouldn't be able to live freely as citizens without the fear of persecution from their government. That's not the kind of America we want to live in. Plus, I don't trust the government to be righteous enough or honest enough to handle and call those balls and strikes anyway. We want less government. So more persecution and judgment of sexual lifestyles is going to call for more government. We don't want that because we don't trust the government, at least here in the MAGA movement. I'm not saying you can't be gay or you can't do the dance. I'm saying I think the dance looks weird. I'm saying that I have a problem with where the LGBTQ has taken the conversation. I've said this many times on the podcast. My mom was an esthetician where she worked in a huge spa where they did hair and makeup, nails, facials, waxings, the whole nine. And plenty of gay men there. Not the gay men you see today. They weren't flamboyant. Maybe they had a little softness and lightness to their tone. And maybe they had some feminine mannerisms, but it was much, much different than you have today. And the transgender thing wasn't even a thing. I mean, there were plenty of gay men that did hair and nails and makeup and all kinds of stuff that I saw growing up, but they didn't come to work dressed like women. In fact, many of them dressed like men better than some men. And I don't say like they dressed like they were well dressed. You know what I mean? They had good fashion sense, right? That's kind of that was the old gay guy, right? It's like this guy could dress. He has a good sense of fashion. He's clean cut. You know what I'm saying? And that is just what it was. But now, it seems every LGBTQ person or more LGBTQ people are coming with the pronouns and the gender fluid thing. And it's like, I'm not even saying you can't do that. Understand, if you want to go to an all-out, knockdown, drag-out, nuclear, kinetic, potentially nuclear, 20-year war with the Russians, understand they're not playing that game over there. Know thy enemy. It's a luxury here in America for us to prioritize sexual politics in our culture. It's a luxury. And I'm not even saying it can't be a luxury that we continue. I wouldn't recommend it, but I don't get to decide. The people decide, right? I'm just a public servant. Now, will I speak out against it like the gentleman from the beginning at the school board? You bet your fucking ass I will. And I'll go to jail to speak out against it if need be. But if the people decide that this is a cultural norm they want to continue, that's the will of the people. All I'm asking is, can we not get in a 20-year fucking war with an ancient culture who doesn't give a shit about pronouns? Can we please avoid a 20-year war with an ancient culture with a profound sense of national, geographical, and cultural identity? Can we please avoid a 20-year war with these people? Because they're going to kick our fucking ass. Because they're in the Kremlin. They don't give a shit about pronouns or transgender surgeries. They're not wasting their time, energy, and resources on it, which means we are at a strategic disadvantage. And when the Victoria Newlands don't tell you that, we need to sit them down, have them watch this video of this freaky-ass dance, and just ask them where you fall on these things. You want the dance or you want the war? You can't have both. You can't have both. That's the new MAGA standard. We can't have it both ways. We're either going to prepare ourselves to fight a war on 3 fronts in Asia, or we're going to have interpretive fucking feminine dances for the young men. One or the other. Okay, roll the next clip.
Ranking Member Reed, members of the committee, my former colleagues, I'm honored to introduce a son of Minnesota to you, Pete Hegseth. As a senator from Minnesota, I spent many hours with this young man as he walked the halls of Congress advocating on behalf of America's veterans. And he is young in the best sense of the word. He is strong, focused, intelligent, incisive, a great listener, and is almost supernaturally energetic, just what we need in a Secretary of Defense in times of massive change. He is the real deal. F. Scott Fitzgerald was a writer in my city of St. Paul, and said the problem with America is that there are no second acts. He was wrong. Pete was a brave soldier, has been an able communicator, and I believe is about to begin a great second act as our Secretary of Defense. He has struggled and overcome great personal challenges. Please don't give in to the cynical notion that people can't change. We need the ones who can change to lead us, to be beacons of hope, and to remind us that grace can lead us home. 4 years ago, President Biden's nominee, Lloyd Austin, a good and honorable man, received 97 votes on the floor of the Senate. And we went through the debacle of the Afghanistan withdrawal. Putin invaded Ukraine. The Houthis endanger our shipping lanes. We witnessed Israeli miracles against America's enemies in the Middle East, where the United States was more of an impediment than a help. Our recruitment numbers have sunk dramatically, and our southern border has suffered a slow but dangerous invasion. Yes, Pete Hegseth is an out-of-the-box nominee, and I say it's high time to get out of the box.
Oh, really?
One more thought.
Stop.
The country longs for a government
Stop it.
of less
Play it. Never
division
mind.
and
Continue.
more
Let
respect
him
and
finish.
dignity. My hope is that this committee hearing provides what they are asking for. Disagree? Yes. Strongly if necessary. But then come together to support the nominee, this nominee, Pete Hegseth, of the one president we have at a time, laying aside partisan politics for the essential mission of national security upon which everything else depends. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
You neocon rhino scumbag. Now, Pete Hegseth, that's who Trump wanted. I like it. I like Pete. I've talked to Pete. I went on Pete's show. Pete's a Minnesota guy. I'm all for Minnesota guys. I'm a Minnesota loyalist in every sense of the word. And if you go back to my interview with Tom Hauser with KSTP, he asked me about Norm Coleman. He asked me about Norm Coleman in an attempt to group together the late Senator Wellstone, Norm Coleman, and Rudy Boschwitz as three Jewish Minnesota politicians, and basically asked me a general question about how I felt regarding that. And obviously my response was, I got no problem with none of them. I mean, he wanted to, I don't know, bait me into a question about three prominent Minnesota Jewish politicians to say that I don't like any of them because they're Jewish. Is like ridiculous. It was a ridiculous. It lacked journalistic integrity on his part. But furthermore, Paul Wellstone, trailblazer on the mental health topic, was out there, in the bus, the famous bus, going city to city, county to county, getting out in front of the people, doing it the way you're supposed to do it, whether I agree with them on all the issues or not. So I got some respect for him. Rudy Boschwitz obviously was had success, and was a senator. I respect that, right? Still in the fight, still doing. So I respect it. Norm Coleman made the great jump from being a Democrat to Republican, and I even gave him some credit for doing that because that's tough to do, to switch parties. And then he came out and endorsed my opponent in the primary, Ukraine Joe Frazier. And see, these are the types of fucking games that are played, and I get it. It's all symbolic, it's symbolic and ceremonial to have a Minnesota senator, former Minnesota senator, introduce Pete Hegseth for his appointment as the Secretary of Defense. I get it. It feels good, right? It's like, it looks good on paper. It's like, yeah, we got to have Norm Coleman do it because he was a senator. It's just so fucking corny, And I want Pete to, Pete got in, and that's a good thing. And I like Pete, and I think he's going to do a good job. But, Norm Coleman introducing him's not a good sign. I'll tell you that. That's not a good sign. Again, I like Pete. I think we need younger people who are out of the box. I would agree with that. What Norm said. The funny thing is, Norm wasn't willing to endorse an out-of-the-box candidate here in Minnesota. I guess Pete's the right kind of out-of-the-box. And myself, I guess I'm not. And this does beg very good question about certain things. Certain things. Pete's the right kind of out-of-the-box, but I'm not. And I'm not here to draw any comparisons between myself and Pete Hegseth because, again, I like him. And I think the trumped-up bullshit, kangaroo witch hunt style, Me Too criticisms and the whole tattoo and all of that's bullshit, okay? I think Pete's going to do a good job if he keeps the America First policy approach front and center. And if he does that, he'll be fine. But if he starts to waver, and if he starts to let himself get pulled in by the temptation, the seduction, the lucrativeness of this uniparty, and its scumbag hacks like Norm Coleman, then we're fucked, to put it bluntly. And I hope that's not too out of the box for you all out there. You know, Norm can say what he wants. He can go up there and he can read his fucking speech that he put together. And I don't know who asked him to do it. Somebody probably asked him to do it. But, you know, when a Norm Coleman and Mark Miller's a local, Jewish Republican constabulary. When a Norm Coleman and a Mark Miller and the Republican Jewish coalition come out and say that I'm anti-Semitic, fuck you people. It's just that. And it's not because you're Jewish. No, not at all. No, my co-host here on Hebrews at Free People Radio, he's Jewish. These attorneys all down the hallways here in our relative area, Jewish. Speak to them every day, like them. Went to school with their kids, love their kids, good people. Had nothing to do with you being Jewish. Has to do with you being corrupt, a fucking scumbag. And when you say, when people say national security is the bedrock upon which all other issues stand, you know you're talking to a neocon. You know you're talking to a military-industrial complex scumbag. You know you're talking to a person who would publicly endorse somebody who wanted to fund the Ukraine. And the Ukraine is still the up or down issue, the up or down litmus test. And all you got to do is bring these people onto the podium one by one and ask them. It's not difficult. Like, honestly, there are going to be, like I said the other day, all the tough questions and answers are still ahead of us. They're still in front of us. There are going to be some tough questions and there are going to be some tough answers, and some of it's going to be complex to help rescue this republic and keep the republic safe. There are going to be some tough questions and answers, some complex solutions. This shit ain't complex. If you want to send more money to the Ukraine, you're fucking out. Simple. It's not difficult. This ain't algebra. This ain't calculus. This ain't trigonometry. This shit ain't rocket science. This shit ain't, special relativity or astrophysics or particle string theory or none of that shit. This is all very easy. If you want to send money to Ukraine, if you supported sending money to Ukraine, if you supported candidates that send money to Ukraine or wanted to send money to Ukraine, like Ukraine Joe fucking Frazier, you're out. And that goes for Norm Coleman too. So come on, Norm, you got to come to the public square. It's easy for you to go to the, and he said it right there. He said the quiet part out loud. Russia invaded Ukraine. He had to make sure he threw that in. He said it, didn't he? He said Russia invaded Ukraine.
I have terrible memory.
Yeah, he said it. He said, yeah, I don't even have to listen. I don't even have to. You could have asked me what he would have said, and I would have said at some point he's going to mention that Russia invaded Ukraine. Because that's who these people are. That's who the establishment is. That's who the Republican and Democrat uniparty establishment is. That's who the globalist establishment is. They believe in their own arrogance, their own Western arrogance. And again, I hearken back to what I said in the previous clip. If you're going to be that arrogant, then you better make sure that you give Pete Hegseth the space, the room. You empower him to get our military ready to do what it's going to have to do. Because you motherfuckers are surely going to provoke a war, and it's not going to be a war that's pretty. It's going to be an ugly war, a real fucking ugly war. And a lot of people are going to lose their lives. A lot of young men and women are going to unnecessarily lose their fucking lives for your geopolitical pipe dreams. So you better at least let Pete get the people whipped into shape. which would mean that the transgender surgeries for our servicemen and women are going to have to take a back seat. But if it was me, the first thing we would do is we would disavow the Norm Colemans of the world and the Republican Jewish coalition that so arrogantly misuses the Jewish identity to forward uniparty establishment, corrupt status quo politics. If it was me, and that era of MAGA is coming, mark my fucking words. We are coming. Is that the last video, Tanner?
That was the last video.
Been another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio, powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody, buy them from us. Help fund the movement. Whenever you need to buy tires, TireGet.com, promo code FPR, you get 3% off your total purchase. Hebrews coming this weekend, Saturday, I believe. We're going to launch Hebrews on the Hebrews YouTube channel. Still don't know who the guest is going to be for Friday's episode. I have to work on that. But we will have a Friday episode, a Friday Family and Friends guest episode. So stay tuned. We'll see you Friday evening. Remember Professor Penn's podcast, Tuesdays and Thursdays. That'll be tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Central, as it is every week. And Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, Real America's Voice, the Royce White Show. Again, thank you all for your listenership and viewership today and in the future. We appreciate you greatly. Don't forget to stop by freepeopleradio.com. Visit the store, get some merchandise. We got a great cup here. Might as well show you since I'm sitting here. This is the Cuck Slayer coffee mug. If you're a Cuck Slayer like I am, feel free to drop by Free People Radio. We got Cuck Slayer coffee mugs as well as Please Call Me Crazy coffee mugs, Free People Radio coffee mugs. If you're a coffee drinker, I'm not even a coffee drinker. I drink tea. I need some tea right now. But stop by the store, grab some merchandise, grab some Free People Radio gear and some other stuff. That's it for me. Time to go get myself some tea and some throat lozenges and get ready for good old basketball practice here with the young fellas. Beware of the uniparty. Again, I said it before. I'll continue to say it. Donald Trump gets his guy, Pete Hegseth. I like Pete, Minnesota guy. I think he's going to do great if he maintains an America First mentality and approach. As soon as the Norm Colemans of the world start to get their pincers in to Pete and the rest of this administration, it's all for naught. It's all for naught. The fight continues. The people are coming. As always, Godspeed.
Everything's up on the bar. We're all in. We get to decide. Do you want to live on your knees, or do you want to die on your feet fighting? That's the decision you get to make now.